Very excited to have you all here. My name is Tyson Oliver. I am the corporate trainer, head of training and development here at State Bank of Southern Utah.
I'm Ronnie Passy. I'm the BSA manager, so I oversee all the money laundering and fraud bank-wide. It kind of all wraps up, and I have a hand in all of that. So I see all the cases that happen here and get to help individuals recover from fraud instances and hopefully recoup money as much as we possibly can.
Before we dive in, let me handle some logistical things. Before you leave, if you have not already, make sure you sign in. We like to keep track of who comes in and all that stuff. Also, if you need a restroom, there's a women's restroom just outside this door and a men's restroom right outside this door. It's just past when you walk out. And also, feel free to grab a cookie, bottle of water before you leave, or even right now. We will not be offended if you walk around during this presentation. Also, we do have some courses we want to make sure you're aware of. We have a great class on buying or building a home. Very important topic right now because it's getting harder and harder to manage that. So we got some experts, Tyson and Matt, that can help you with that. That is going to be next month in April. And then in May, we have Tammy talking to the community about purchasing a car and what goes into that. If you or someone you know might be interested, scan that QR code, get the information you need, and sign up if you're interested. One last thing before we get started. I do want to, we've got so much to cover because we want to make sure we made the best of this time. So with that, if you have questions, if you don't mind holding on to those questions till the very end, we'll take questions at the end. And especially if you have very specific situations you'd like to talk through, we'd be happy to stick around after we're all done, talk to you. Ronnie is here, I'm here. We also have Grayson Miller. He's our fraud specialist here at State Bank, and he would be a great resource as well. So hit up one of us three at the end if you'd like to kind of dive more into the details of your situation. Okay, with that, let's get started. Here, I completely forgot. There we go. First, I want to talk about, I always teach this to our employees. I like to lead out with our purpose and cause. Here at State Bank of Southern Utah, our purpose is to help others feel valued. The cause we strive for, what we work towards every day, is we want to improve the quality of life in the communities we serve by helping people be, I almost said it without looking, helping others feel valued and successful in their financial objectives. That's what this class is all about. We want to help you feel valued. We want you to be successful in your financial objectives. We want to improve the quality of life in our communities. That's really important to us. So with that in mind, we're hoping the information we share today helps you be successful and overcome a very, very scary, very tricky situation out there, and just be mindful of it. Specifically, what we're going to talk about is we're going to go through the common scams that we see all the time here at the bank. We're going to identify 6 in particular. We're going to go through the red flags so you can recognize, this sounds like what Tyson and Ronnie spoke about. We're going to go through best practices, things you can do actively to prevent any kind of fraud happening to you. And then proactive protections. Let's not just react, but what can I do beforehand that will protect me and my money? Also, while we go through this, I want you to think about people you know who would benefit from this information. Make some notes for them. No one is smart enough or safe enough that they can't fall victim to this. So please share this with people you know. We're also recording this, so this video of this class will be available on YouTube. Share that with anyone you know so that they can get any help that they need.
We're going to start off here with some goals. What does a scammer want? What's their whole goal in trying to scam you? The first is trust. They want to build trust with you, and they will be as patient as they possibly can be to make sure that they get that trust and get you willing to do whatever they want you to do. They want access. They want access to your financial accounts. They want access to your personal information. They just want to gain as much access because if they can get access to it, then they don't have to keep talking to you in order to move the money or do whatever fraud they're trying to commit. They also want your money. That's their goal. Money is what talks. They want to make sure that they have access to that money, and they want to steal it from you. And then, if you happen to run out of money, they will still use you. They'll make sure that you have now won the lottery. They'll make sure that your investment is now performing wonderfully. They want you to bring your friends along, and they'll continue to use you so long as they still have your trust. They'll just change the scheme, so that it looks a little bit different, a little bit better, but you guys are still friends, and they're still using you to help further their criminal scheme. And finally, they want your information. They'll use your personal information. They'll pretend to be you. They'll commit identity theft. They'll open bank accounts in your names, credit cards, take out loans in your name. They'll use that, everything that you have, as much as they possibly can. That's their whole goal in the scam. The fundamentals, as Tyson and I were putting this presentation together, we came up with these 4 things. If there's only 4 things that you take away from this conversation today, it's these 4 things. The first, at any time, ask yourself, does this make sense? Take a second, step back and say, is this normal? Does this make sense for them to be asking me this? The second, if it sounds too good to be true, then it is. If they're promising unrealistic gains, returns, expectations, if it's too good to be true, take a second, step back, and ask, does this make sense? This is too good to be true. 3, make sure you're always in control. Make sure that you control your passwords. Make sure that you're the one asking questions and that they're not treating you like that they have all of the knowledge, all of the information, all of the wealth, but that you're taking that control back from them. And 4, at any time, make sure you're involving another trusted person. That could be a spouse, that could be a friend, that could even be just somebody at the bank. Talk to us. We're always happy to hear what you have, your concerns, and help work through those things with you.
And as we talk through different scams, we're going to show you how you can use these 4 little exercises, 4 pieces of information really effectively to avoid these scams and falling prey, okay? So, what 6 scams we're going to focus on? We wanted to focus in on the things we see the most, the things that are the most prevalent, and the ones we've identified is impersonation fraud, investment fraud, romance scams, employment scams, sweepstakes scams, and elder financial exploitation, elder abuse. So let's dive in. We got a lot to cover. The first one is impersonation fraud. Impersonation fraud can take a lot of different forms, and you'll even see some ideas with this one blend into other scams that we'll talk about later. But impersonation fraud is a very common one you probably are familiar with. So scammers pretend to be someone trustworthy, maybe a representative of your bank, a government official, or a known business, someone you've worked with. There's maybe someone you've never worked with and you're thinking, oh, apparently, maybe I do have an account with them and didn't remember that. They may further the deception with a fake website, email addresses, or physical materials. If anyone, this might come as a shock to you, but if you recently got a phone call about your extended warranty, if you didn't know already, that's fake. And that's a great example of impersonation fraud. They're trying to pose themselves as a company you've worked with, you're familiar with, even though you don't remember them. Hey, will you do business with us? The scammer requests sensitive information, often using urgent or threatening language to pressure the victim. That urgency is key for what they're trying to accomplish. If you fall prey to that, that's kind of that control part. If you can pause, slow things down, that really dismantles what they're trying to achieve with you. So recognize that. That's a huge red flag. And you would never want to give sensitive information to someone that you even have a question about. And lastly, the information that they get from you is then used to steal money, commit identity theft, or gain access. Gain access to your bank accounts, gain access to Social Security, all sorts of things. They may also install malware on your device for future fraud. Because once they can get access to your device, maybe just monitor what you do on your computer or your phone, then they have access to all sorts of things. Most often what happens is they're no longer just stealing from you, they're using you to steal from other people. So, some red flags. If you see these things, it might be impersonation fraud and it's reason enough to pause, slow things down, and start asking some questions. First, if it's an unexpected contact, if you weren't expecting for them to reach out to you, that's a red flag. Urgency and pressure. If they use language that makes you feel emotional, they like to emotionally bait you, to move quick. Don't think about this, just go, go, go. Suspicious requests that are unusual. They're asking for things that don't make sense. Again, ask yourself, does this make sense? They're asking me to transfer money over to this personal account, or I have to pay for a gift card to then pay for this thing. Things like that don't make sense, right? Inconsistent communication, especially if you've communicated with them before. You get a call from State Bank, somebody posing as our fraud department. But the way they talk and the language and terminology they use, that doesn't sound like the State Bank people I've worked with before. Huge red flag. And last, again, if it seems too good to be true, if something seems off, that's a big red flag. Trust your gut. Most of us have really good instincts. We just don't always act on them. We think, oh, we're just being paranoid. Be sensitive to that. Be willing to take control and do something about it. Let me share a news story that kind of shows several people who went through this same thing.
This viewer wanted to expose what's really going on after he got bilked by imposters claiming to be from Chase Bank. And just like they did with B of A customers, these crooks said they're helping you stop a fraud when in reality, they're the ones stealing your money.
Holy smokes, no way.
This person told me that someone was trying to scam me.
So this is happening to many people.
It appeared as though it was a text message from Bank of America asking me if I was trying to transfer $3,500.
I said no, and within 15 seconds, my phone rang.
He said, okay, we're gonna get you that $3,500 back.
You're gonna go to Zelle, and you're gonna send it to yourself.
They were all targets of the same scam. All believed they were reversing a fraudulent transaction. All were actually sending money straight to the imposters.
$3,500 was gone right then and there.
It was an eye-opener.
And all were customers of Bank of America until now.
It says Chase Bank, fraud alert, Zelle payment in the amount of $2,000.
It was a Friday night when Donald James got the frightening text.
If you made this transaction, reply yes. If not, reply no. I said no, and my phone rang, and it was Brian from the Chase Bank fraud department.
Or silly thought.
Caller ID number was identical to the one on the back of my Chase card.
But the caller ID was fake.
And he goes, well, let's go over these charges. Did you send a Zelle for $2,000? I was like, no. And he says, we need to send the money back to yourself.
The imposter told him to transfer the money with Zelle using his own phone number. It seemed like it was going back to Donald. It wasn't.
I was getting notifications on my phone that I had sent myself money.
He typed in the transaction codes and the imposters snatched the money at the other end.
I sent out $7,000 over a matter of several transactions.
When one transaction went awry, the scammers got angry.
And hung up. And I went, wow, I have been scammed.
B&A has refunded some victims of the Zelle scam. When we asked Chase about its policy, the bank only offered a warning that bankers will never ask you to send the money with Zelle.
What red flags do we recognize there? Urgency, yes. There's the emotional baiting. Did you lose $3,500? Did you send this? Oh, no, that wasn't me. Definitely emotional baiting. Anything else?
Just sending money to yourself doesn't sound...
Does that make sense? Does it make sense to recoup money lost by sending yourself money. I don't even know how to say that again. That was really difficult. It does not make sense. Yeah.
So the number on the back of your credit card is probably just an ingoing line. Nobody's gonna call you on an outgoing line from the bank that has that same number on it.
That phone number, you can't be confident enough. I wouldn't trust that necessarily. One thing you could have done if they were talking to you and you're starting to sense these red flags, this doesn't make sense, there's some emotional baiting going on, I could have hung up and immediately called a phone number I trust. I got it off my account information or on the website. Something like that would have been a great move. Let's go through some best practices. First, like I just said, always be willing to end a call. I give you permission. If you are worried about being rude, Tyson right now gives you permission to be rude, hang up that phone, call back with a trusted phone number. Especially, this is why it's valuable to bank with someone where you have a relationship with a person. We've really focused in at State Bank on having relationships with our customers for situations just like this. If you don't just have the bank's phone number, but have Tyson's phone number or Amanda's phone number or so on, that way you can reach out directly to them and say, hey, I got this message, what do I do? Second, again, ask, does this make sense? It made no sense, that entire situation. And then ask some more questions that individual on the phone with you would know. Can you tell me where the transaction was from? Can you tell me what bank I'm with? Maybe they don't even know that. Can you tell me, ask some personal information. What do you know to verify them? Because if they're reaching out to you about fraud, they already know who you are. Make sure you know who they are. But I think the first one is the most important one. Always be willing to just hang up, start that conversation over. That's what we mean when we say take control, be in control. A fraudster is basically giving you a roadmap to follow. If you just follow it and hit every little point, yeah, you're going to lose a lot of money. But if along that way you stop and you say, no, I'm going to be in control right now. We're going to do things this way. You will protect yourself. Okay? Ronnie.
Let's move on to investment fraud. The FTC, they issued some statistics last year. They put out a report in 2024, $54 million just in the state of Utah was lost to investment fraud. We all know fraud is significantly underreported. So if we're talking $54 million, we have all of those people that did not report the amount that they lost just in investment fraud. That number is significantly higher, right? Very concerning. Unfortunately, for us in Utah, we are very, very trusting. That's not a bad thing. That also plays into our economy. We have a great economy. We have lots of businesses that thrive in this very trusting environment, but we have to make sure that we're vetting that and doing our due diligence with it. Scammers will pretend to be very, very successful individuals, very wealthy, and very knowledgeable. They do that so that they can intimidate and even flatter you that you're the one they're choosing to talk to invest with. Or they're acting so successful and knowledgeable so that you don't ask questions. So that you just take their credentials, everything that they're saying is face value, that you're never putting up any hurdles that they have to go through. They will ask for an initial amount of money, but they'll continue to ask for more and more money. A big red flag there, that it's constantly evolving. It's never just a one and done. They're always your best friend, and they always have more that they want from you. They will also create fictitious documents or websites to display your returns. They're good at what they do. You'll have an app, you'll have a web page that you go to, and it'll look like your investment. The initial amount that you have on there, that's your initial investment. Your $15,000, your $100,000, your $1 million that you sent them will show there. And that number will increase. It may go down. We all understand that investments sometimes go down. They got to make this seem believable, right? But overall, it will continue to go up. It's fake. They're good at what they do. Red flags to look out for. If there are offers that are risk-free, that is a big concern. No investments are risk-free, with the exception of some very, very safe investments or guaranteed returns. If they're guaranteeing that you will have this return on your investment, watch out for that. If there's pressure, again, this urgency, this pressure that you have to do it now, otherwise you'll miss out, big red flag. If you're asked to pay by credit card, gift card, cryptocurrency, or wiring to a personal account, again, does this make sense? If you're investing in a business, shouldn't you be sending that wire to that business? Does it make sense to give them gift cards for an investment? Those types of things just don't make sense. If it's an unsolicited offer, usually with investments, you're kind of the person to reach out and say, hey, I'm interested in your business. I'd like to invest. I'd like to be a partner. That starts with you rather than them reaching out to you. And requests for secrecy. This can go across the board for any of these frauds, but if at any point they're saying, hey, this has to remain secret, otherwise this is going to happen, that's a big red flag. Make sure you're talking about it, thinking it through, talking to your spouse, your family, your friends, and make sure that everything's on the up and up. I've got a video here about an investment fraud.
My balance was a little over $2 million.
A balance Jim Wilkerson thought was real as he kept records of every investment.
He would show you how much you did, the date, the time, etc., and how much you actually made. It looked 100% legitimate.
This started when Jim says he was contacted on LinkedIn about an investment opportunity.
This person said, well, you know, there's gold futures, and I did some reading up on it. Futures is risky, but it's very high return. So, okay, I'll take a shot. Can't hurt.
So Jim invested into the online trading company Sundell FX.
The return was like 21 to 24%. I mean, when you start seeing the money and the fact that I was actually able to pull money out, okay, this seems really for real.
Since he was able to pull out his earnings, he thought it was safe to keep investing, and at first, his earnings grew.
A little over $4.8 million.
But then, things took a turn.
When I tried to pull money out that last time, they came up and said, oh, well, your account has been flagged, possible money laundering.
You can see the messages from a Sundell representative claiming the process will take 1 to 3 days to work out. But days later, a new message.
That's when I knew I'd been had. They said, you have to transfer an amount of 10% of what your balance is to this address. We verify it, transfer it back to you, and then release your funds.
When Jim didn't pay,
my money just disappeared completely out of the account.
a huge loss to Jim.
Total was approximately $790,000 US.
And Jim is not alone. The Washington State Department of Financial Institutions issued an alert about Sundell FX. The company's website is now shut down. In 2022, FBI data shows victims reported losing $3.3 billion in investment scams.
You feel pretty ashamed of yourself when something like this happens.
Jim reported what happened to authorities and knows his money is gone, but is sharing his story to warn others.
Any type of a business proposition that really seems too good to be true is probably because it really is.
I met my scammer through a dating app called Bumble, where he spent about 6 weeks courting me before I made my first investment into a cryptocurrency fraudulent website domain. I lost 152,000 USD. I will probably be spending the next 10 years to pay off the debts for completing the manipulative techniques that were used to get me to continue to invest in their platform.
Karina fell victim to a scam that's growing like wildfire, one that can take months to fully execute.
The scale of these crimes is just skyrocketing, and I'm specifically talking about pig butchering.
Scammers build trust with their victims before gradually asking for money, which often takes form in cryptocurrencies.
When we had TradFi thefts and TradFi schemes, it was really difficult to get a victim to go liquidate literally everything they had.
You might have gotten a random text from a stranger claiming they have the wrong number, but they seem friendly enough and continue the conversation, or you hit it off with someone on a dating app. They might eventually try to strike up a conversation about an investment strategy they have, but government agencies warn this could be the first step to luring you to give up your money. The FBI's latest internet crime report, published in April, shows that $4.5 billion lost to investment fraud were reported in 2023, and 86% of those fraud schemes mentioned cryptocurrencies.
This is why the crypto sector, in my personal opinion, deserves a lot of scrutiny. In the right hands, it can be used safely. In the wrong hands, it can carry out devastation that we cannot imagine.
Pig butchering got its name due to the nature of how it's typically executed. The victim is first fattened up.
Our scammers will spend up to 4 to 5 hours a day texting their victims. The victim will note that this scammer has become the relationship they always wished they had. Holding their hand through every piece of it, they will direct our victims to take money out of their banks and invest it into what they believe is a cryptocurrency platform.
The fraudulent website platform that they used was mimicked after a real cryptocurrency trading platform called Kraken Futures. And the website was built in a way that it looked like a completely legitimate cryptocurrency trading platform. It had options spot.
Our scammer already knows, because they've spent this extended time with our victim, that our victim has a 401k, that they have college funds for their kids. And this scam will not end until our scammer gets every last penny that our victim has.
We've seen law enforcement officers fall prey to these. We've seen lawyers, we've seen teachers.
Not only do they know what to say, but they know how to stage it and what works. By day 3, they should be using terms of endearment and calling them honey.
That 2023 Internet Crime Report from the FBI found the vast majority of reported investment crime was tied to crypto. The underlying technology allows for peer-to-peer money transfers, making it a great tool for remittances. Transactions don't require middlemen, which scammers use to their advantage to move funds around the world.
It moves quickly, it moves cheaply. All our victim has to do is push a button on their phone and they've transferred hundreds of thousands of dollars.
That was heavy, right? That's a lot of money lost to investment fraud. They're good at what they do. They create those websites and people genuinely believe, like that first guy, he was able to cash out some, right? Well, thankfully he asked for a small enough amount that first time he cashed out. When he wanted to be done, the money wasn't there, right? So that we don't fall victim to that, what are some best practices around investment fraud? The first, research investment opportunities thoroughly. Get on the web, Google it, make sure that this is a real business. Make sure that someone else hasn't already posted about the fact that this is a scam or fraud. Learn from their mistakes and don't fall victim to it. I stole this from a colleague that does the same thing at a different financial institution. He always preaches the hang up, look up, and call back. At any given time, feel free to, like Tyson said, hang up, do your research, and then call back at a trusted number. If it's Apple that wants you to invest, hang up, call Apple, go that route. Number 2, ask lots of questions. Sometimes asking questions, you'll just be able to figure out that it's a fraud. Other times, you will have the scammer just throw their hands up and be, it's not worth my time. This person is going to be that person that's going to ask a million questions. I'm just going to give up because it's not worth my time. They're not my easy target, if you will. Number 3, verify investor licenses. There's websites you can go to verify that the license was actually issued by that person. Those that invest and invest as part of their business, they have to be licensed. So you can verify their licenses out there. And 4, talk to another trusted individual. Again, we've hit this, but make sure you're talking about it. Go find an investment advisor. Make sure this jives with what they do on the day-to-day.
Okay, let's talk about romance scams. A very common one that we see here. In fact, just last year, that same report from the FTC said that last year alone, Utah residents lost $11 million to romance scams. So romance scams, they're very sad. Vulnerable people. Scammers pretend to be someone who loves and cares a lot for the individual. Scammers can have a relationship for months or even years before they start to ask for money. This is the long con. They know it's worth it, so they will take the time that they need. They'll consistently have personal trials that will usually require money to fix. Their car broke down, or they got really sick, or their business is struggling, whatever it may be. These, you know what, I'm just struggling right now. And of course, if you've built up those emotions, those feelings for the person, and you have some money that you feel like you can part with, of course you're going to help someone in need that you love. And then the scammers may use altered or stolen pictures, videos, and recordings to gain trust. Just a few months ago, I saw a story, look it up, it's crazy, of a woman who had been convinced she was in a relationship with Brad Pitt. Legitimately, she thought she was in a relationship with Brad Pitt, and because he was getting divorced with Angelina Jolie, his money was all tied up, and let me help you out for the time being. Obviously, he's good for it. He's a big Hollywood star, and none of it was real. In fact, a few days ago, I saw a story about Brad Pitt reaching out to this woman and saying, "I'm so sorry that I was used for this." But it's a very real thing. The hardest thing about romance scams is that even after they've lost everything, some of our customers will still be convinced, no, that's my boyfriend or that's my girlfriend. They're going to come visit me any day now. We're in love. They are. It is so hard to convince them otherwise. Some red flags. There's always an excuse for not meeting in person. A lot of the times they'll use those trials they're going through. When COVID hit, a lot of times it was, oh, I got COVID. I can't travel for so long, and yeah, I wanted to come out, and now I can't see you. They claim to live, work, or travel abroad. That can pose issues as well. Oh, I'm working in this area, and man, they're really rough with money here, and it's just really tough to get by. They request money in unusual ways. Normally, if I needed money for whatever need, simple electronic transfer would do, but they might ask for something less transparent, less of a paper trail. Inconsistent information. They tell this story, and then they tell this story, and then it's all over the place. And they ask for conversation to be moved from a different app. Maybe you meet them on a dating website, or maybe you meet them through certain correspondence, but then they want to move it somewhere else. Again, this secrecy aspect is really important to them, especially if it's on a dating website. They don't want to risk, if they're reaching out to several different women, they want to make sure that, well, now we're texting. No, I'm not on that website anymore. And it's easy to cover up. Let's watch. This one's really heartbreaking, but let's watch a story of this exact situation.
My name is Glenda, and I'm 81 years old. In 2014, I met the love of my life online, and he told me that he was a U.S. citizen and was working in Nigeria. He asked me for money to help with his business and help leave Nigeria. Then my love had people send me electronics, like cell phones, so I could pawn them and send him the money. When I couldn't get the money that he wanted, he asked me to open personal and business bank accounts. Since 2015, bank employees, local police officers, and federal agents told me that my love was a scam and that I needed to stop or I could go to jail. I didn't listen to anyone else but my love, the love I've never seen nor spoken to. Now I don't have a choice of whom I'll listen to. On November the 2nd, 2021, I pled guilty to 2 federal felonies. I'll be listening to the judge now.
Not everyone on dating sites and apps is looking for love. I'm Special Agent Jewel Albrechtson with the Salt Lake City FBI. A romance scam involves someone using a fake online identity to gain a victim's affection and trust, only to drain their accounts. In 2021, victims of romance scams reported losses of approximately $1 billion. These con artists are experts at what they do, so don't be fooled.
It's very sad. Most often, it's women. Most often, they're over the age of 50. These are, with all these situations, but especially this one, they're preying on the vulnerable. In every case, it's vulnerable people who can be emotionally baited. This is a different kind of emotional bait. This isn't rushing you or getting you scared or nervous. This is, I've missed feeling loved. I feel lonely, and they take advantage of that. It's awful, tragic. So some best practices to follow. First, research the individual. Do what you can. Find out, ask them questions and find out information, and then research that. Protect your personal information. Whatever they ask for, do not give it to them. They do not earn that right. Involve another trusted person. You're going to see a consistent theme here. So often with all these fraud scams, they're getting you to not share about the person or the situation, the investment, the romance with another person. They want you to keep it a secret. That's a massive, massive red flag if they do not want you to talk about them. If they're not willing to talk about or talk to a trusted person, a child or a sibling, someone like that. Never send money to someone that you've only ever met online. That's a common question we train our tellers to ask customers when we suspect they're involved in fraud. Have you ever met this person face to face? If you answer no to that question and you're doing transactions with them, that's a red flag, especially if it's large amounts of money. If you've only ever corresponded with them online, you do not know who they are, even if it goes back years. And lastly, go slowly. Ask lots of questions. Again, be in control. You be the one in control and deciding where things go. Okay? Ooh, heavy one.
Those were heavy, yeah. This one's a little lighter. We're going to talk employment fraud. We'll go a little faster through this one as well. Recruiters, employers, they will offer attractive job opportunities to get job seekers to divulge personal information or steal their money. Again, they're going to take as much information as they can from this person. Just take everything that they have. They don't care about wrecking their life. What they want is your social security number. What they want is your name. What they want is what money you do have. Job seekers are provided with fraudulent checks or asked to send money in advance. Just like that older lady, she was turned into a money mule. That's what happens with these employment scams as well. You'll be sent a check. You're supposed to purchase equipment. You're supposed to show this company that you're trustworthy, honorable. They ask you to send money back. That check will bounce. A lot of our customers that are of the younger generation, they don't understand how these checks work. They don't realize that it takes time for us banks to talk to each other and say, yeah, that's a good check. They see their balance go up because as soon as you deposit that check, your balance usually goes up. They think we've already done that communication instantly because we're in a very instant age. And then that check comes back bad. Well, they've already sent the money on. So then they're left owing the bank money. Recruiters request sensitive information that may be used for future fraud, identity theft. Again, this is an employment scam. They're going to have you fill out that tax form. They're going to obtain your social security number, your identity, all your personal information, and then they're going to use that. Red flags, if the communication is through untraditional means, that's a red flag. Interview process seems too easy. You never had a formal interview process. They're just basically forcing you to take this job, if you will. That's a red flag. They want personal information, including bank information up front. You haven't even been offered the job, but they're already saying, hey, let's get your direct deposit all set up. We're going to help this go really, really fast. You search it. You can't find any verifiable address or even a physical office. Go to that website. See if that job is listed. And again, they send money up front for equipment or training. They're basically forcing you to take this money, which isn't good money.
Indeed.
Oh, sorry. Here's a video.
Indeed, Glassdoor simply hired Monster and LinkedIn are just a few places people look for jobs, but job scammers are everywhere, and they're upping their game to find new, clever, and appealing ways to trap people. The Federal Trade Commission says scammers list jobs the same way as real companies, and even have imposter HR people pretending to be from actual companies conduct interviews via email and text. The Better Business Bureau reports one of the most common scams is a work-from-home job to receive and reship items. Many people that fall for this do the work and never get paid. Fake checks, secret shopper, and caregiver scams are also frequently reported. So, how can you tell a real job post from a fake one? You are asked to pay any kind of fee or purchase a new phone or laptop before starting your new job. You are required to provide your bank account information before you start the job. The job posting is not listed on the company's website. The job description and requirements are vague, and the pay seems high for the work to be done. Experts say to always do a Google search on the company. Make sure the website the recruiter shared matches the real website. Also, consider setting up a second bank account so you aren't giving out details to your main account. Most importantly, insist on talking to the recruiter and future teammate in person or at least on a video chat. So listen, the BBB says, just remember, if you have to pay a fee, do anything out of the ordinary to get the job or feel rushed to accept it. It's likely a scam.
All right. Best practices around employment fraud. Similar to what we've seen, research the company, do your due diligence on it, avoid those upfront payments. If they're forcing money in your hands, be very, very cautious. Don't move money for someone else. Ask questions, look for errors in your job offer that you're given. Make sure it reads right. We see these come across, and there's so many grammatical errors. It doesn't even sound like a well-known company would even issue a letter like that. The formatting's off. It doesn't even read like English. Look for those things. Remember, that's a red flag. And check the company website for the job listing. Go out there, see if this is actually a job. If it's really vague on what you're going to be doing, that's another red flag. They should have very distinct and specific descriptions of what that job will be.
And we're going to talk about an old scam, but still does well. Sweepstakes scams. Publishers Clearinghouse is what comes to mind. Publishers Clearinghouse is still used in these scams all the time. So let's walk through it. Scammers contact individuals and falsely claim that they've won a lottery or sweepstakes prize. Scammers may request sensitive information because if they can't get money from you, at least they got your social security number, right? Or your account information. Scammer usually requires payment up front for taxes or handling charges, all sorts of things. Some red flags with this. If they ask for an upfront payment. Taxes, they work that out on their own. They're not going to ask you to pay ahead of time for taxes. Urgent and persistent communication. Again, this is emotional baiting. Winnings must remain a secret. Don't tell anyone. Again, see the consistency from scam to scam? There's grammar errors in the communication they're sending you. Very, very typical.
I'm a little embarrassed about the whole thing.
This Central Florida man says he's so humiliated, he asked that we only use his middle name, George. How much would you say you've given him?
Between $250,000 and $300,000.
$300,000? About 2 years ago, George walked out to his mailbox and found this flyer inside from Publishers Clearinghouse. A PCH spokesperson confirms it is legitimate. George says he went to this website, entered the activation code, and gave PCH his contact information. A few weeks later, George says he received a phone call from someone claiming to be from Publishers Clearinghouse, saying he'd won a huge prize.
$10 million in a check and $2.5 million in cash that would be delivered to me in a briefcase.
But first, George says he was instructed to wire several $100s to PCH to pay for stamps on legal documents.
They were very convincing.
The caller later requested more money to cover delivery fees
I make this payment or I lose the prize.
and storage fees for the Mercedes-Benz George also believed he won.
It just kept going and getting me deeper and deeper.
When George asked the caller for identification, he says he received a text message with this ID card for PCH employee Danielle Lamb, along with this photo showing her at work as the official PCH Prize Patrol spokeswoman. What George did not realize is that hundreds of Lamb's photos can be found online, which scammers can steal.
Hi PCH fans, it's Danielle with the PCH Prize Patrol.
In this video posted on PCH's YouTube channel,
We never notify our winners with a phone call.
the real Danielle Lamb warns about scams.
You never have to pay anything to claim your PCH prize. Winning is always free at PCH.
Days after we interviewed George, a News 6 viewer sent us this email he received claiming he won $6.5 million from PCH. But first, he was required to pay $7,500 in legal fees, something the real PCH says it would never do.
I just want other people to be aware that this is going on so that they don't fall in the same trap that I fell into.
Okay. A lot of times we think, I'm smarter than that. It's not about smarts. It really is about emotions. They take advantage of that. Some best practices with sweepstakes scams. Verify the source with trusted information. Are you seeing the trends here? Never send money. With sweepstakes, they will never ask you to send money up front. Don't share your personal information. That includes your bank account information. And trust your instincts. Again, if it seems too good to be true, it is. Sometimes I've had customers who would fall for this, and I would ask them, did you sign up for Publishers Clearinghouse? Did you sign up for that lottery? Did you sign up for that whatever contest? They say, I figured I just forgot. Big red flag. I didn't even sign up for that. Okay, last one, but very prevalent, elder exploitation.
All right, we're going to take this one from the angle of you have an elderly person. If you want to categorize yourself as that elderly person, use this as a great tool to get your family, your friends, your children to help you establish a plan to not fall victim to this and to make sure that there's a plan in place. First off, trusted individuals misuse the trust to exploit elderly persons for their own financial gain. So you have caregivers, you have somebody that's supposed to be there for that elderly person, watching out for them, being there for them, and they misuse that trust. The elderly person may feel forced to give money, or the trusted individual may just simply hide the theft. It's just completely unknown to that elderly person that they're peeling off some of the top of it. Super sad. Lots of times we see this with the elderly people, and they're afraid to ever confront the person. They're afraid to talk to anyone else because that may be the only person that they have giving them help and support. So they're willing to lose that extra money even though they know that they're losing it because they don't want to lose that person because they are the one helping to put food on the table, giving them love and support and comfort. Instead of outright theft, money may just be misappropriated without the elder's knowledge. There's a fraud triangle that we talk about quite often. Somebody needs motivation, they need opportunity, and they need to be able to rationalize it in order to complete that fraud triangle to basically steal from somebody. So if you leave those three ends open, you could be susceptible to fraud and being a victim to some sort of exploitation. Perpetrators may manipulate or coerce elders into changing wills or financial documents. So this could happen later on. There could be some sort of a triggering event. That elderly person dies, and then all of a sudden when the family comes in and it's like, we know mom and dad had this trust established. It was set up like this. We're all supposed to receive equal cuts, and then all of a sudden you find there's this random third party out here that now signs on the account, and the account is drained. They had their trust, and it's been changed. So red flags to look out for to make sure that this does not happen. If there's sudden changes in banking practices or they're changing the way they usually do things, we're all creatures of habit. We do things the very same way. When that changes, that's a big red flag. Unknown individuals appearing more frequently, keep your eyes out. Talk, ask, figure out who these people are and why they're all of a sudden showing interest in this elderly person or even this vulnerable person. If bills are paid late or unpaid entirely, a big red flag. There could be some sort of a stressor there. They may have been blood dry and they just simply don't have money to pay their utility bills. That's something that we look for on the back end when we're reviewing accounts and things like that to make sure this sort of thing isn't occurring within our bank. Elderly individuals become defensive whenever questioned. So if you're that trusted individual, you're that sibling, that child, and you start asking this elderly individual questions about who this person is or what's going on, why are there changes in their bank account, they become very defensive. That's a big red flag that something might be off, that you got to dig a little bit deeper. Hard conversations to have. Here's a video to explain a little bit more about that.
Lakin Road in Knoxville housed a secret for years.
It's a crime that happens in secret a lot because really elderly are confined to their home and it's the caregiver who is both providing the care and abusing them.
Brenda Crutchfield lived behind this door. Knox County Sheriff's Office says her nieces and nephews neglected her to the point of death. All four have been charged with first-degree murder. DA Sharm Allen says the family ties make prosecuting these cases hard.
That's a challenge because the elderly don't really want to turn in family members.
She says uncovering the abuse starts with a money trail.
It's a financial institution that reports in the first place.
The presentment claims Crystal Dalton, one of the charged family members, exploited her aunt for $60,000. Sasha Hammett, an elder abuse case manager with the CAC, says that's the tip of the iceberg.
Once you have the financial exploitation piece, that's going to come along with other pieces. Most often, the physical abuse, the neglect, the emotional abuse in order to gain the control of those funds.
This case was extreme. But last year, the DA looked into almost 1,200 others.
Lots of cases. Very sad.
Scams that
One
seek
more.
to take advantage of older Americans. Better Call 4 has told you about some of the most common tactics reported to agencies like the BBB, the Attorney General's Office, the FTC, even the FBI. In fact, the Bureau's Internet Crime Complaint Center recently released its 2023 IC3 Elder Fraud Annual Report. Adults over the age of 60 reported around $3.4 billion in monetary losses to fraud and scams last year.
So what the FBI's report is about is what they call elder fraud, which is when a stranger takes advantage of an elder.
General Manager for Norton LifeLock, Ian Bednowitz, says around the same time, the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, a bureau of the U.S. Department of the Treasury, released its own report, and the findings for him hit close to home.
They in general talk about elder financial exploitation, and there are two types. One is the elder fraud, the other is elder theft. And the number two form of elder theft is when a caregiver in the home actually steals from the elder. So that was my personal experience, was with elder theft.
Bednowitz says the caregiver hired to take care of his mother was actually taking money from her.
Thousands of dollars, and my heart sunk.
Bednowitz says he spent a lot of time and energy cleaning up the mess that caregiver created and doesn't want to see anyone else go through that.
The best defense is a good offense. If you have a caregiver in the home, you need to protect yourself.
Bednowitz suggests vetting the agency and the caregiver, but don't rely on a background check.
But my caregiver was background checked. She actually had a fake identity that she used to pass the background check.
Dig a little deeper into their identity, and before you invite them into the home, get all of the personal information out.
Make sure you get all tax returns out, get the social security number out. Start changing, redirecting where mail is going so that it's not coming to the home.
Finally, consider freezing your or your loved one's credit.
If your credit is frozen, no one can take out access without you giving permission yourself to use your credit. And if you're not going out and actually using your credit to buy a car or a home, keep your credit frozen.
All right, best practices. This is that plan to make sure you or your loved one, that elderly person, doesn't fall victim to it. Have multiple individuals overseeing finances. Work with banks. It comes in handy so many times when we have these cases, when there's individuals that we can reach out to. There may be children, siblings that sign on an account that can help shed some light on, oh yeah, this is a problem. It does appear that that person's account really is getting drained faster than we would expect. The checks and balances, it's very helpful for businesses in general to have these checks and balances. Have these checks and balances on your own personal account. Make sure somebody's there looking at it and making sure everything's above board. Report unusual activity to your bank and Adult Protective Services. There are resources out there. There's things that we as a bank can do to help. And then there's dedicated services, Adult Protective Services, that can go and help care for that individual, make sure that their needs are met, and that they have somebody watching out for them. Monitor bank accounts and credit reports. And this is just a general great practice. Make sure you're in there often, looking at your accounts, verifying charges. If you're overseeing someone's account, make sure you're in there often, overseeing their account. If they're not going to use their credit in a while, put a freeze on there. Call all 3 of the credit bureaus, freeze your credit. If you need to use your credit, all you have to do is call that phone number and unthaw it. It's really not that cumbersome. It does take a couple extra steps, but it prevents a big nightmare from happening. And encourage open communication about financial matters. Make sure you're frequently talking about finances. These elderly people want to be involved. They don't want to lose that independence. They want to make sure that they know where their money's going. They want to make sure their bills are paid on time. Sit down with them, but help them. Make sure they understand exactly where it's going and why it's going there. Couple takeaways.
So first, we're going to go through some more general things we've touched on, some things we haven't quite hit on, but good practices. Always trust your financial institution and law enforcement. Don't feel a need to get defensive. Remember, we are on your side. We want the same things as you. Involve trusted family members. Scammers will always try to isolate you. Don't let them. Always include someone you trust in your family. Take time to verify. Stay in control. Use the information that you trust, that you've gotten yourself. And then educate yourself. You being here is a great example. Do what you can to know what trends there are, what red flags there are, and then frequently remind yourself and look at it.
On the never side, never make money decisions on your own, even if it's somebody as disinterested as a bank teller. Talk to them, make sure the situation adds up, that it's really vetted, that it makes sense. Never click on links in an email, text message. If it's talking about unauthorized activity on your account, go to the source. Call the bank, go sign into your online banking, see if that charge is there. Use that trusted contact information. Use your bank account. Never use your bank account to receive money and then forward it on. That's that money mule situation. Very, very sad when it evolves to that. Usually it happens after a scam victim has sent away all of their money. Then they start seeing their return. They're getting asked to move illegal money for somebody else. And like that poor lady, she pled guilty to moving illicit money. She found herself in jail. Very, very sad when it evolves to that situation. And never be pressured to make a financial decision. This money is yours. You should be able to spend it the way you want. Make sure you're stopping, asking questions, and spending it the way you want to spend it.
So let's hit on, I want to recap the main points we're wanting to make tonight. First, ask yourself, does this make sense? If the answer is no, it's a great reason to pause, take a moment. Stay in control. Slow down. If you just slow things down, that's a great tool to have in your back pocket. Ask some questions. Use information you have gotten. Check in on family that lives alone or who's elderly. If somebody is already isolated in their situation for whatever reason, make sure that's not a factor for them. Be extremely cautious when there is a sense of urgency. If you can feel them baiting you emotionally, put a stop to it. No legitimate request would require lying to family or your bank. So often, I started out in banking as a bank teller, and there were many times where I knew the person talking to me was a victim. And I would ask them questions to uncover and get details, and I knew they were lying to me. And sometimes, eventually, because they're a good person, they would kick in, okay, listen, I'm not telling the truth. And I would ask them, were you coached on what to say to these questions? And so often they'd say, yeah, they told me you would ask that, and this is what I was supposed to say. If someone is instructing you how to lie, they are not trustworthy, okay? Huge red flag. They're making it a little too easy at that point. And monitor your accounts frequently, daily, weekly at the very least, but daily if possible. Keep an eye on it. Make sure you're in control. Fraud, scams is an ever-growing issue. I am always amazed at how very intelligent, very capable people, it's very sad. They fall victim. And the saddest part is how they are afterward. They are embarrassed. They're ashamed. They are beside themselves. So often people aren't reporting it because of those negative feelings they're feeling from it. So you want to be sensitive to that and make it clear to people, listen, I care about you. I want to help you be protected and avoid this kind of scam. We've run out of time. If you do have questions that you have about your situation, come find myself, Ronnie, or Grace, and we'd be happy to help you.